let's see. Sorry, my Zoom windows always get in the way. This chat always gets in the way of the presentation. So here, let's see. Okay. Are you able to see slide 1? Doesn't seem like it.
I think we're seeing the presenter view as well.
If you reshare your screen, you need to select the option once you've clicked presenter mode, if that makes sense.
Let's see. Okay, oh, here we go. Yeah, I will reshare. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so we are Friends of Chosewood Park, and my name is Taryn. I've been at this for about 8 months. We are a neighborhood located just south of Grant Park in Southeast Atlanta, right next to the U.S. Penitentiary, if you know where that is, or near Prison Tacos, which is another landmark that everybody knows. We are a small neighborhood of about 350 single family homes and a few small multifamily homes at the moment. And we have a 14-acre green space at the middle of the neighborhood, which is often erroneously depicted as a 6-acre green space on a lot of documents. So I always like to correct people there. We recently got a survey of that too to determine the exact size. So that's our neighborhood. Funny enough, Reynoldstown was the first place I lived when I moved to Atlanta in 2012. So I really, really appreciated hearing about Lane Carson Park. I lived at Walthall and Flat Shoals. So that area is really important to me even to this day. But okay, so we actually have, we found out yesterday, we have 4 major developments of, many of them are developments of regional impact coming into our neighborhood, such that our neighborhood population will likely quadruple, if not more, over the next several years. We have Empire Communities putting in a 33-acre development at 1335 Boulevard, and that's going to be 1,180 units. And then we have Atlanta Housing, which is putting in a 900-unit, 30-acre development further north of us at north of the park along Englewood and Boulevard. And then we have Toll Brothers going in south of the park, and they're doing a 270-unit development that's 10 acres. And then in addition to that, we found out yesterday that the GM plant that's near the penitentiary, which is I think a 60-acre area, is going on under contract soon with developers as well, although I'm not sure how many units will be going into that area. So we basically have an explosion of development in our neighborhood that we're trying to take advantage of for the park. Here's kind of a visual of where those developments are. If you look at the kind of their impact on the park and on our neighborhood, we have most of this area was like mostly wooded, or just in the case of Empire, it wasn't developed since like the 1950s. So, or the footprint hadn't changed from the 1950s. So most of these places have to get rid of a lot of trees, and they're not just any trees. There are a lot of really huge oaks. And so we are a little concerned about some of the impacts on the park, particularly when some of that water gets drained towards our park and into our neighborhood streams, which I'll talk about. And then if you look on the bottom left part of this map, that's where this 4th development is going in, is this like kind of tan area. That's the GM plant. We have a dream of a very highly connected neighborhood. Currently, our neighborhood is completely separated between the east side and the west side, and the north and south. And the thing in the middle, blocking all of that, is our park. So we see a ton of opportunity to create connections through the park. And it's also just a beautiful space with a beautiful stream system running through it. But our challenge is in part those stream systems, because they're highly eroded, and because there is so much existing concrete around us. We have a lot of water flowing into the park, and we're kind of trying to figure out how this future development will exacerbate that. And part of the issue, here's some pictures of erosion. Part of the issue is just the ability to build a bridge or a crossing and different entrances when a lot of that area is very unstable. When we did get a study done on our park, we determined that right now it's probably unsafe to attract users to those areas because of how eroded it is. So, but anyway, what we're working on is an entrance on the Empire side of our park along Galt Street. And we came up with a conceptual design for it that's depicted here. And it's going to cost a lot of money, basically. So we're trying to work with developers to help pay for that. And then in addition to that, we're trying to get other developers to work on hopefully other entrances as well. That's the dream. But I rated us as, I think, a 3 on being able engaging developers. And here's what we've done so far. We have talked with Empire Communities, helped us basically do all of the planning and design phase of this project, which was really helpful because that's something that a lot of grants don't cover. So they forked out approximately $13,000 for a full land and topography survey of the park, which hadn't been done since 1981, and the city had acquired some parcels since then. So that was extremely helpful in being able to come up with designs and understand our budget because we needed to know the topography in detail. And in addition to that, they helped us spend $3,500 for our conceptual design and a nice rendering of the project, as well as come up with budget. And then they, what they did was they matched us half and half between the neighborhood and the developer to complete a stream erosion analysis to basically understand how feasible putting in a pedestrian bridge would be across our stream. So I think one of our challenges in addition to that, we got $25,000 in exchange for rezoning from Toll Brothers, which is the developer on the south side. I wish we'd had this meeting before to know that Empire forked out $100,000 during their rezoning, but we got $25,000 from them. And then in addition to that, Atlanta Housing, we've been talking a lot with about the Chosewood Forest and their area. They're thinking about making a reservoir, and we're trying to talk with them about creating some staircase connectivity to the park, which is a little bit hard to explain without the vision plan or our informal vision plan in front of us. But we basically, it feels a little overwhelming at times. Hold on, I'm sorry. Let me get my pet. It feels a little overwhelming at times because there are so many developments coming in at the same time. And so that's been one of our struggles there. But let's see. Okay. Helpful for us have been organizing site visits with developers. And that's something we're still working on in the case of particularly Thrive or Toll Brothers. We have not been able to arrange a meeting with them yet, but we're aiming to do that. And I think getting developers on site and just getting them to see how close the park is to the development and how much positive value that will add to the development is really helpful. And a lot of times, because our park isn't correctly depicted on a lot of maps, people don't really understand where the boundaries are, and they might not really truly have thought about how much their future residents will value being near that green space. Similar to the letter that Friends of Lane Carson Park sought from Empire, we always, when we do have a conversation with developers, make sure that we memorialize our conversation in a letter that acknowledges their pledge if they do donate something. So in each case that we spoke with Empire and they agreed to help fund our studies and design process, I immediately sent them a letter for that. And then I think another key thing that came out in the Lane Carson presentation that we also try to use is collaborating with our neighborhood association. I think it's really powerful when people who aren't necessarily park advocates, but just advocates for the neighborhood in general, also show up to these meetings. So I always invite our neighborhood association president to every meeting I have with a developer. And in addition to that, I've invited our city council person to meetings. I've invited Park Pride to meetings. And I think it's really just helpful to show that we're really serious about getting things done. So I think that we had a little bit less of an advantage in some of these cases because in the case of the large Empire development that's going near us, they were not required to rezone. And so they didn't have occasion to meet frequently with the neighborhood. And they didn't really need anything from us. So everything that we've asked them for is just purely a donation. And I do know that they, I think they had sort of a number in the back of their heads. They told me that's $50 a unit, but really hoping to increase that amount towards the park, just given how much it will benefit their development. Things that we wish we would have known about working with developers. I definitely tried to get on Acela and understand what permits have been issued and where they are in the process so that we can kind of review their plans and assess how they'll affect the park, that especially when it comes to stormwater management. And that's something I'm still working on. It's not a system I've worked with before in the past, except for checking out my own house. And so that's something as like a non-developer, somebody not in the industry, it's a little bit intimidating at times, but I do try to wrap my head around what the plans are and what we could ask for. And we are actually still working on that in terms of stormwater management with developers in our neighborhood. Empire in our neighborhood has moved extremely fast. They're in the same, I think they're at the same stage of development as they are in Reynoldstown, as in they're putting in their stormwater infrastructure, and they've already pretty much done all of their site work. And they started here just a few months ago. So they're moving really fast. I think their aim is to, get their money back to their investors as quickly as possible. So that's where we're kind of at with that. I think we're going to be way more proactive about impact fees in the future. Before I was involved, all the impact fees for some of these developments were already allocated to other areas of our district. And so I think we try to, in the future, and we have been emphasizing with our current city council person how important it is for those impact fees to go back to our neighborhood, because truly we need infrastructure investments commensurate with the huge population increase that we're facing. And then the last thing that I wish I would have known about is community benefit agreements. I'm just becoming familiar with these, and I would love to hear other individuals' input about this. If you had any experience with it, especially the person who said that they have had a level 4 out of 5 experience working with developers, to get them in writing to commit to certain infrastructure improvements in the neighborhood, including park things. We did not do that with the 3 developers so far, and we're considering it with the 4th one, and we need guidance on that. So that's an overview of how we've been working with developers, and I'll open it to questions.
Any questions for Taryn and Chosewood and what's going on over there?
I would love, could you show the picture again of the map where like the new developments are coming?
Yeah, let me reshare here. Oops. Okay. Okay, here's 3 of the 4. So it does show, I think total, this is about 130 or 140 acres of development. So it's a lot we have a pretty small neighborhood. I don't know if you can see my mouse.
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
Yeah,
so our neighborhood boundaries are this Englewood, Hill Street, McDonough, and then Boulevard. So I mean, oh, and then it goes around the GM plant and the prison as well. But I mean, that's like, just looking at it like this, it's almost like half of our area.
I don't have the answers, but are there like people in Chosewood Park that are attorneys that like, this is wild that the stormwater runoff is coming and that people aren't like required to then pay for that improvement within a park? Like, that's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I think we met with Watershed about this, and I'm glad that Commissioner Dargle is here as well. You know, they are required to capture the first inch of stormwater, and so there is a stormwater ordinance on the books. But you know, when we have 4 or 5 inch storms over the course of two days, I don't know that it's really sufficient. But then again, the Toll Brothers development and then the GM development are mostly concrete right now anyway. So it's really, we would have to pay for like a pretty detailed stormwater analysis to determine exactly how all of these things will affect the erosion in our park.
Hi, Terrence, Dave. I'm not familiar with the Acela platform. Can you just expand a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so Acela is the City of Atlanta's public document repository. So when you apply for a permit of any type, you can find it on Acela by using the parcel ID for the property or the address, although it's a little bit finicky. So you can just go in and see if there have been any permits applied for, if there's documents associated with the permits. You can see if there's been any enforcement by the city, like for any code violations, et cetera, et cetera. And it's, if you Google it, Acela, I think it might just be, I don't know if I spelled it correctly. I hope I did. Let me, it's either with 1 C or 2 C's, but if you Google Acela Atlanta,
That's only for the city of Atlanta?
Yeah, that's only for the city of Atlanta.
Okay, thank you.
Taryn, did you need to, that's just publicly accessible? Did you need to have some kind of permission to access it or just create an account?
You just create an account and then it's all publicly available information. And then some of it, if it's not available on there, you can do an open records request to the city and request like sometimes there won't be attachments and you can try to obtain like that. So
Dave, there might be a similar system in Brookhaven.
Okay, I'll check into it. Thanks.
Taryn, this one question I had for you was I see at the top of the screen that you're sharing, it shows, I believe, Boulevard Crossing Park. And I'm just curious how, for your neighborhood, how much that park fits in within your accessible green space and how that also, just as you're looking at access to green space, how that park fits within this conversation, particularly as you look at the density that's coming into the area and that other large Beltline park that is in that path.
I think that's wonderful. I think what it doesn't do is the accessibility within our neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have, you know, the wooded area that's so special about our park. But I think it's wonderful. And honestly, I see that Jacob's on here now, and he was going to pipe in at the end of the presentation about community benefit agreements, and he probably has more knowledge about that. I think one of the things that I've been just working on is you know, everybody has full-time jobs, so I'm just only focused on Chosewood Park. That's like my mission. But I think it's really exciting for the neighborhood. I don't think that anyone has worked with developers, as far as I know, although perhaps the city has, to get investments in that park. But I mean, that's an excellent ask. That's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, let me add that the Englewood development in partnership with the Housing Authority, they're going to donate 3 green spaces to that on that north side of the park, plus expand the northern boundary that would provide additional access. And we ought to push the other developers around that area to make some of those connectivities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm curious, is that one of the partner developers or is that the city, like Atlanta Housing donating that? Because I think Atlanta Housing owned those parcels, and so it makes
Yes.
sense they're donating them. They're so much easier to work with, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they do that. They're interested in the public good, and we've talked with them a lot, and so I think they're. I think like their goals aren't necessarily, they want to create a great functional, affordable housing space that people appreciate long into the future. Their goal isn't necessarily like turn this around and make money for their investors. So I found them really pleasant to work with. We've talked a lot about this. I know initially they wanted to try to daylight the stream that runs underneath the Empire and Atlanta Housing properties, which would have been awesome, but it just wasn't feasible. And Empire didn't want to do it because they didn't want to wait on the permitting. So they wanted to, they're replacing what was a 12-inch trunk line connecting this Entrenchment Creek area with a 72 and 84-inch trunk line, and they're just putting it all underground, which is, you know, I think Atlanta Housing would have been more patient and willing to try to work and make the most out of the stream that we have there. But alas,
And we should push them for that a trail, you know, over that trunk line.
Atlanta Housing,
Yeah, both of them.
I
Empire
know,
and
yeah.
Atlanta Housing.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Quick question, Taryn, before we kind of head off. So none of these developments are related to any of the developments that are on Milton Avenue.
No,
So then that's what neighborhood is that considered technically?
I guess is that still, Jacob would be able to answer that. Is that still Chesapeake Park, Jacob?
Yeah, Taryn, that is. And if you would,
I might have messed up the boundaries a little, sorry.
no, I tell you, if you want to pull up the visionary plan, that is very specific into the boundaries of Chosewood Park. So this particular map is the full aerial view of what Chosewood Park breaks down to. And as you can see, our biggest land lot that we have is the U.S. Federal Penitentiary. Next is the General Motors plant, and kind of goes from there. You know, as Taryn had mentioned before, our area that is really just our single family stock that we do have, it's about 352 single family homes, and they're all kind of located just to the left of where Milton Avenue starts and then runs over to essentially kind of is broken up between the park and the Toll Brothers there, and then, you know, it ends up on Boulevard. So it's pretty much the neighborhood is going to be surrounded by density with the pocket of single family land lots located within the center of it. So Milton has the potential for a lot of density. As you can see, just on the other side of our the belt line there, we have all of that new development that was just recently completed, and that is actually in Summer Hill. So it's directly adjacent to us. It's not very far. Yeah, right where your clicker is there, the mouse. So yeah, that is, connectivity is big for us, which is partly why we put together this particular visionary plan to show that we have the ability to reconnect these lost streets that were abandoned, you know, years and years ago. And that, you know, really we wanted to, you know, start pushing these developers to incorporate that type of connectivity and, you know, helping us maintain the green spaces that we do have. You know, kind of touching on what you guys had mentioned down by the Boulevard crossing area. You know, we have a small pocket of land that is down there on the corner of Inglewood, and you can zoom in. Actually, I don't know if you can, Karen, but it's on Inglewood and Boulevard that we are calling our wildlife preserve. It's technically a land lot that's for sale right now. It's been for sale for a few years, but this would be a great extension to adding to our park. And you know, listening to Annie, Miss Appleton there speak about how they worked with Empire. I believe this is a great location for us to help, you know, with more connectivity, more wildlife preservation, and adding to our park. for more green space, just based on the fact that it touches Atlanta Housing on the west side and Empire on the north side of their particular lots. So.
Have y'all talked, I'm assuming, I know that the Beltline's working on their new sub-area master plans. There's like a meeting right now for sub-area 4. Do y'all go to the ones for y'all's area? Because I'm just thinking of, if this is a lot that hasn't been sold yet, could you see if it could get drawn up in plans made by the Beltline? Because I guess that's Beltline, duh. This is not connected to the Beltline?
Yeah, it's not actually touching the Beltline. This would be something that we could put into our CBA
Okay.
with one of these particular developers. And like Taryn had mentioned, I'm just kind of becoming aware of this over the past month and a half. We've already had a few meetings with our neighborhood planning chair, Troy Nunley, and some of the other executive team. We actually have another meeting on Friday where I'm going to be using, not only what I heard this evening as a part of it, but also we've gotten a few good examples from CBAs that were passed in other locations, some of them even in other states, but it's a good starting point for us to see what's incorporated in those CBAs and how we can actually start using that to approach these developers and quite honestly hold them responsible for the amount of impact that they have on the neighborhood. We're a very small, sleepy little area, and all of a sudden we have just out of nowhere jumped on the radar for, it seems like every developer in the country wants to come down to Chosewood Park. So we have a lot of potential to grow in the right direction. And I think starting at the very beginning, before these contractors are able to actually break ground and start doing their horizontal work, to give them a good site plan on what the community wants to see and what we want to see done as in the overall future. It's just unfortunate that, places like Empire, which is 30 acres, had the current zoning that they needed. The GM plant was rezoned in 2006 for an MR3C. So they're only applying for an SAP. So a lot of them are able to, circumnavigate around dealing with the neighborhood and the NPU and just going directly to the city. They're not required to come to us. So we've tried to be, start that open line of communication, not be hostile, just, try to, welcome them into the neighborhood and figure out a way to have them work with us. So this has been very helpful this evening on this. I appreciate what you had put up there, Annie, regarding what you guys had gone through over there at Lane Carson Park, because I believe that's a good example for us to, use and to be able to cite that for moving forward with our own CBAs.
Thank you, Jacob, for that. You actually transitioned into our kind of the debriefing discussion very well for me. I just kind of wanted to explain to not everyone who knows how the governmental process works. And like you were saying, how one lot triggered a rezoning while one lot didn't need to trigger a rezoning, which completely halted the process of the neighborhood even being involved in the rezoning. And like with Annie and Lane Carson, they needed the rezoning. So obviously they were in y'all's face trying to make sure that they knew everything you wanted, so you all could come and approve their rezoning so they could get what they wanted in return, which is, a lot of townhouses, like you said, optimizing how much money they can make right on the Beltline. So I'm glad that you guys have two completely different situations that we can compare and look at to how one group can just come in and somewhat do what they want and just meet directly with the city of Atlanta, while one group has to innately, come to the ground up and build their relationship with the community, and then, to kind of butter the community up and then get an agreement on what, everybody wants, which is an initial rezoning and, all the community benefits and all of the neighborhoods benefits of the income it's bringing in. So I also wanted to bring in Commissioner Dargrove if he has any more comments about how the government on the park side taps in and makes sure that everything is needed.
Another thing to add to that, just to the way that we've been coordinating between all of us, I think is important. Continue to do this, to do that. The steps that we have in place as obviously our park design and permitting review meeting as an initial step, and have conversations. I'm open all the time for messages or a phone call if you want to talk over a project, and then we initiate it through staff assignments and through our park design and permitting review meeting. And I'm just I'm impressed with both these projects and all these individuals that have been working on these projects.
If I can add to that, I'll just mention that I do feel like there's been a lot of pragmatic advice, I think, that's been offered here today. But also, I just wanted to recognize the tone that the community members had in terms of working with, engaging with the developers, that there has been a desire to look at the fact that you're not just going through the motions, you're getting something from these relationships. But there's also a way that's not off-putting in the way that you're approaching these. I know Annie had mentioned the fact that you know, that you didn't get everything you wanted, but the idea that you asked, I think, also in doing it in a way that is building a relationship is important. So you're really trying to make sure that you're putting yourself out there, but you're also looking for those opportunities for a win. And I also wanted to mention that Taran's mention of the importance of site visits, that I often say that the reason I continue to be at Park Pride is not because of the work that I do behind a computer, but getting out there and walking properties and meeting with community. I think that meeting that or one of the site visits that happened with Empire actually translated into them being willing to pay for that survey work that was done. So I would not underestimate the power of the park itself in generating ideas and helping to unlock commitments. And for that matter, I think of just my experience with the Beltline back when it was a concept and an idea, was repeated exhaustive site visits wound up being one of the secrets that moved that idea from a vision and a dream into a reality. So I think that's an important part. And then also, I know that with Lane Carson, we had the visioning plan, and with this work that's happened in Chosewood with the idea of actually having some maps and renderings that actually give you an idea of what you're trying to talk about. I think that that's something that I think helps to lead the conversation into something that is tangible and allows you to get people to understand that bird's eye view over what needs to happen. So I think lots of really great elements of this conversation. And someone had mentioned the fact that this is all stuff that people are doing as volunteers, that this is not your day job. And I think the fact that you guys have been able to develop these kind of active learning experiences and to pick things up as you're going is something that I have picked up a number of things on this call myself, but think that you provide, I think it's really inspiring just to see the way that you've engaged and what you've been able to accomplish thus far, and the fact that you're building momentum over time to support your community. So well done to both of you.
Thank you, Michael. I know Pauline has her hand up, so I want to give her a chance to ask her question before we go on to our Park Pride updates.
Yes, just one question for Michael, and that is, at the beginning of the session, you used two terms, and I was trying to capture them: transactional relationships, and what was the other one?
So I know that at least what I recall was looking at more of a transactional approach and then a relational approach. And so transactional is really looking at the idea that you are just looking for, you know, kind of a one-off response, that this is the one thing that I want. And once we get that, then we move on. And
But
really
you get it.
relationship is, or relational is more the idea that you're building a relationship. It kind of also gets to the idea that people don't give to causes, they give to people. And so part of what you're trying to do is to build a sense and establishing a sense of trust. I also think both of our different speakers talked about the idea of documenting and memorializing different agreements, pledges, things along those lines. And I think those are all going towards this idea that you're trying to build a rapport, and sometimes that's trying to get them to put their commitment in writing. But I think that Taryn was also bringing up the idea of memorializing. So if you have a conversation, following up with folks to say, what I heard you say was, and actually detailing that can be the next best thing, and can be a way that you're actually documenting a verbal commitment and making it more explicit. And I think that those are also good ideas that move things from a one-off kind of exchange and into something that's an ongoing relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts on this topic, questions for the group? We're going to use the last few minutes to kind of give updates and happenings, but wanted to just put that offer out there one more time before we kind of move on. Okay,
I wanted to ask, oh, sorry. So has anyone done a community benefits agreement that's here?
We created one a few years ago in Reynoldstown, and then the person who made it for us, that I guess maybe she was a developer, or I don't know exactly what. She moved out, and so we have a document. I will send it to you, but we have not had much success. And similar to y'all, most of the big parcels in Reynoldstown along Memorial Drive have already been purchased. And so if you don't get in at the very beginning, I think Dave was saying that, and get someone to commit to it before they start building, it's a little late. But I'll send you the document. I will send that to you.
That'd be really helpful, because we still have the GM property and we're really trying to hustle to get something together for that.
Yeah, I think the number I've seen is $250 a unit is like a standard ask. I think that Empire actually paid that for maybe some neighborhood over on the west side. I don't know. We're recording. Don't quote me. I don't know. But I think 250 is like the number that people have said is normal.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I think like that's what's really useful about these meetings is we can kind of understand what one neighborhood has asked for and begin to understand if we're asking for something in the right ballpark, because otherwise it's very hard to know. And a lot of that isn't public information. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. We're going to kind of just wrap up the meeting with some updates. Wanted to just quickly see if Commissioner Dargle, did you have any updates you wanted to share with this group before we move to Park Pride updates? Oh, you're muted still.
No, we're excited to be in 2022, and as you know, council passed legislation for us to go before the voters in a May referendum for an infrastructure bond, and so both of your parks are on this project list, and so we're excited about that. I've shared that list with Michael, and we're going through a prioritization of those projects, as well as sharpening our pencils to determine the cost of that, so we can be able to fund those projects. But we're excited about that May referendum, and so the monies will start flowing in, but probably won't see anything till September, October, typically after that passes a voter referendum.
Question about that. How long does the department have to spend the money from the infrastructure bond?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How long does the department have to spend the money or to complete the project?
Yeah, it's a 5-year bond. So we'll look at a 5-year period that we'll be spending those funds. Thank you.
I'll just add that I think we're very excited about just seeing the project list for the bond effort, that there's a lot of distribution of getting dollars out into neighborhoods and communities, and a lot of great examples of visioning efforts and parks and green space improvement. So I think there's a lot of good things on that front, and I think we'll be hearing more in the weeks to come.
Thanks, Michael. Rosa, I think your hand is up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just, and I apologize, I was driving from the school if this already been said, but piggyback on what Michael said about not developing a transactional relationship, make sure that once the park is in place, that you get contracts from these developers to help you with the maintenance. Because I know our park is a little different and contractors are landscapers, but we have 2 neighbors that have their landscape people kind of adopt spots in the park. And I think that could be long-term very useful for your parks. So I commend you all for what you're doing, but don't miss that opportunity. And you can get that in writing.
Excellent.
Thank you, Rosa.
Yeah.
Annie, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just, Rosa, thank you for saying that. I think I heard we were on a call once with Empire and we were trying to go through a list of what we would try and pay for and what they would pay for. And they said, well, this is only $70,000 of what we would pay for. And I said, if it's only $70,000 to you, then you should just pay for it because that's a lot of money to a neighborhood. But I think, like, to your point, just like, if you're not asking for it, like maybe they would have already planned to pay for some of the landscaping. So just appreciate you kind of sharing that nudge. I'm thinking about what that might look like.
Yeah, maintenance is key. You'll see. So you take advantage of it.
Well, it's actually a perfect transition for us because we're going to be hosting a small outdoor gathering at Chastain Park in February. So sort of interspersing these park meetings with our green space gatherings. So we're going to have our first green space gathering of 2022. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for everyone to see. We're going to be at Chastain Park. So, you know, we're going to be having outreach to other conservancies and organizations, but it's welcome to any friends group, like all of our programs. And this might be a really cool one to come out to. So definitely you're going to want to check that out on the event side of things. We also wanted to plug a couple other programs that are coming up. Also in February, we're having our Advanced Invasives Management Workshop. So we're going to be, that's going to be the 19th of February. We're going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, we're going to be in Brookhaven?
Ashford Forest Preserve.
Perfect. And this is a little bit higher level than kind of your basic invasive removals. We're going to, you know, walk around the space, talk about different natives and non-natives, talk about the management of those spaces and have kind of a conversation as well as some hands-on learning. So that's going to be another great program, and that'll be coming up on our website soon. So no link for you just yet. Other couple things. King Day. King Day is just upon us. It's next Monday, Martin Luther King Day. It's our only national day of service. So tons of groups are getting out into parks to give back to the earth and their communities. So let us know if you've got something going on and need any kind of support. We can try to lend a hand, but also just love to know when things are going on in your park. We've got a couple things on our website that can kind of help prepare your group. We also have Miss Pauline here. She's going to be having a program at Jenny Drake Park, which has a lot of historical significance to King and his movement. So we've got a little write-up on our website as well about some of the parks that have a really strong tie to the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So just wanted to plug that, get you guys thinking about that. And the last thing that I'll plug is our Inspiration Awards. So every year we put together a committee of folks that have been previously awarded to help us come together to nominate a next round of amazing leaders that are doing great stuff in our green spaces. So this can be volunteers, this can be folks that have had a professional career in park equity, in environmental access and the like. I just want to take a moment to shine a light on these amazing folks like you all who are doing this incredible work and kind of give you a little pat on the back and an official thank you from Park Pride. We do tend to let everyone know at our annual conference was kind of a part of this big celebration that we have every year for local leaders. So that deadline for nominations is this Sunday. So if there's someone in your community organization that you know of that just really deserves to be, uplifted, consider giving them a nomination. We would love to be able to consider them. I'll drop that in the chat. And I think any other updates might be able to come from Ellen.
Sure. Thank you, Cecilia. And I just dropped that link to the
Thank you.
Inspiration Awards page.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just a couple other things. Now is a great time if you don't have an open grant with Park Pride to apply for a small change grant. So if you have a smaller scale project that you think you can complete in a reasonable amount of time, early in the year is a great time to do that. And if you can wrap up that project by September, then you can even be eligible to apply for a larger grant, and that might set you up nicely for that. So just wanted to plug that, and I will also put Kayla Altland's email address in the chat. She manages that program. So if you have questions about small change grants, please feel free to reach out to her, and Tori on our team can also support you in those projects. We are also hiring. So we have bittersweet news that Chad Nash, who is our corporate and individual giving manager on our development team, has accepted a position elsewhere, and we're really excited for him, but very sad to see him go. So we have just posted for somebody to join our team and fill in for Chad's very important role. So we'll put that in the chat. Please feel free to share it if you know of anyone or have networks where that might reach the right candidate. Also just wanted to make a quick acknowledgement that we are keeping our eye on public health and COVID-19 safety. So as we're kind of looking at our upcoming events, we may be making adjustments, and just wanted to tell everybody that, and to keep an eye out for communications about in-person things and any precautions or adjustments we might be making going forward. I think that's all I have for us. If there are other Park Pride announcements that we want to talk about, anyone else can feel free to jump in, but also very open to attendee announcements if you have anything for the good of the group.
I'll just add one other thing that I just put into the chat, a link to a column that I posted that says great parks and recreation systems make great cities. That is a plug for Activate ATL that was passed and adopted at the end of last year. Kudos to the city for, I think, a Herculean effort to move forward with this comprehensive parks and recreation plan. Many of you are aware that Park Pride played a role helping with the public engagement. This column highlights some of the different higher level points that are in this plan. And I think as we have a new mayor, a number of new faces on city council, this becomes the plan for the next 10 years. And we're very excited about this. And there was a nice story that was in the Journal-Constitution that appeared between Christmas and New Year's, but there've been a few other things going on these days. So for those that did not take note, we wanted to make sure that we brought it to everyone's attention that this plan has been adopted by city council, and we're very excited about that. And again, kudos to you, Commissioner Dargle, for your leadership in marshaling that forward. And we're very excited, and we're excited to play a part in it.
I just wanted to add something to Cecilia's comment about our Martin Luther King Day volunteer session. The area where the Jenny Drake Park is located is Collier Heights. It is not the home, it was not the home of Dr. King. It was the home of his parents and also of his sister.
Mm-hmm.
So I did just want to make that point. I think Dr. King's home was actually more in the Vine City area.
Old Fourth Ward, right. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. Good to see you guys.
Thank you for a good meeting,
Yes.
Good meeting.
good information.
Here, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Colleen, we'll make sure you get your tools that you need for MLK Day.
Okay, great, thank you.
First, yeah, we'll be in touch about that.
Okay.
Karen, thank you so much for speaking. We did record your session. We didn't get Annie's, which
Too bad,
it'll-
because I feel like Annie's was very helpful. But yeah, thanks for having us.
First, we're glad at least you got to kind of chat with Annie and get some ideas. That was the
Oh,
point.
yeah,
so it's great.
definitely.
Awesome.